step into the new when you drive a Chevy. It's time for a fresh approach and a new perspective. And find the Chevy that's right for you. Find new experiences, find new roads. Chevrolet.
And welcome back to High School Game Day. Certainly glad you tuned in here. High School Game Day coming to you live from the Pizza Ranch studio. Pizza Ranch with 7 locations around the state of Missouri and about to be 8. And our studio sponsor here at the Missouri Sports Network, the MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. Certainly glad that you tuned in today, and brought to you by Central Bank of the Ozarks. We go to the MICDS. High school football head coach Fred Bouchard, home of the Rams. Coach, thanks so much for your time today.
To be here. Thanks for inviting me. Yes.
Coach, 11-1 on the season. You're 30-3 over the past 3 seasons with 2 runner-up finishes in the state of Missouri. Tell us a little bit about your team this year and what you had to replace off of last year's state championship game team.
You know what? We really like our group of seniors. They've done a great job, and they've now year here, so they've kind of got accustomed to our system. And we've got a couple 3-year starters. Winston Moore, a super explosive athlete, who just Steve Hall, another first-team All-State running back from the last 2 seasons, and another one who's an offensive lineman who started, on our first team here that lost in the state championship against Elias. So, we feel really pretty good about our. We've been Class 4 the past 2 years, but because of the that Michigan applies to private schools, we got bumped up actually to Class 5. We're a Class 3 school, but we're competing at the Class 5 level. And when I saw I looked at it and thought, man, that is a pretty daunting district with Eureka West and Ladue and Chaminade and Parkway South. It felt like that was. I'm really pleased that we're sitting in the quarterfinals, having won a district championship against those quality.
Hey, you look at that game a week ago against Eureka, 34-14. One of the most talented running backs in the state of Missouri, and Kevin Emanuel in the backfield for Eureka. How did you game plan that, and tell us a little bit about that game and that final score?
He is an outstanding running back, and we obviously watched a lot of film on what he did. They're a team that's going to run the ball close to 85% of the time, and he's going to get 75% of it. Really became, this is the guy where the game sits. I saw our defensive coaches and our defensive players. We implemented a really good plan. I don't think you hold a guy like that in check, but you try to reduce the amount of damage. And then we got some outstanding plays on defense. We got a couple takeaways. Who's now a starting corner for us. He is our one kid that starts both sides of the ball. Caused a fumble early and recovered it. And then Cam Lester had his 8th interception of the year, Class 5. And then near the end of the third quarter, actually the last Reddick picked up a fumble and went 55 yards for a touchdown. And really that point was 21. It was 21-7. And that put us up, and that became that's going to be a tall order to score 3 touchdowns against us. We got some really nice plays from the defensive side of the ball, and then Winston and Steve just produced like they usually do. They do a good job, and the guys up front did a good ball control. They got off a couple play action passes, so I was really pleased with Brian Gould, our sophomore quarterback, who we all over for a 71-yard touchdown at the end of the first half. So those were that were made in the game. But Eureka has they have an outstanding team, and those kids are strong. They're big. When I shook hands after the game in the line, young man there. So we're again real pleased with that win. Again,
visiting with MICDS head football coach Fred Bouchard. And Coach, now you've got Cape Central in front of you. What do you know about this team coming out of Cape Central?
I just think anytime you're in the quarterfinals, you're playing a team that has some wherewithal. They've had, when we looked at that district early on, Jackson's down there, and Jackson's just had a great run for really the last decade, but the last 5 years has been really outstanding. Poplar Bluff ended up beating Jackson in the district. It's kind of an upset, and then Cape Central beat the team that beat Bluff in the championship. So we just feel like this is a pretty seasoned team. They're 9-3. They've caught some great momentum near the end of the year, which is always and they've really played a good stretch of football the last half of their football season games. Some of them overwhelming near the end of the regular season, but then in the district semis beating Oakville, the district championship beating Poplar Bluff. Those are two quality opponents. They're explosive. They have a nice sophomore running back. Thomas is really a good football player, and he makes up the majority of their explosive plays. But we think their quarterback is really decisive, both in running and passing the ball. He's a kid who's been, I think, a 3-year starter. So there's some good veteran, whether it's veteran leadership, just involved in. And then defensively, they got some guys up front that can really. They're aggressive. They play downhill really well, and it's been something to focus on this week to make sure that if you let a couple of these terribly disruptive, and they got a running start on, whether it's a running back, and so we really are paying attention to the kind of kids that athletes they've got to the ball that we better mitigate those, or it could be a long night for us Saturday afternoon. So,
Coach, is there a team on your schedule? Obviously, it's the first time you've played, Cape Central. Is there a team on your schedule over the past couple of seasons that they remind you of?
That's a great question, Guy. I would say that there's parallels in some ways with Eureka. I think Kevin Emanuel really he picks up the majority of his yardage between the tackles. The Cape back there, Thomas is going to pick up his yards, pick him up between the tackles, but the damage he can do. He's a state medalist in the 100 meter, and he's only a sophomore, so he's got some pretty good years in front of him. But to run in the ball, and then they can pull up and play action pass, and we saw Eureka quite a bit. So they're a run-first football team with the ability to throw. They really got to honor the run, and their other running back is a freshman. Is a really good football player who is a good counter explosive back. And then the quarterback comes up, and whether it's on an RPO or whether it's just in pass, you've honored the run so much that you really have to be aware that they can pop athletes on the perimeter. So I would say, Eureka is one of those teams that but also there's going to be always the nuances and difference between those.
Come Saturday at 4:00, if the Rams come out on top of this game, are you going to be able to point to maybe one or two stats where you feel like you won the game? Whether that's time possession or turnovers or penalties, or what are one or two stats that you're going to have to point at that you're going to have to control?
Well, let me give you a coach speak. Turnovers are always going to be a big one. Like ball over, if they turn the ball over, whoever is doing that, it diminishes that. I think we really have to watch penalties. We've broke plays in the last few weeks, and ended up scoring some points against the. I can also draw to a handful of plays that we weren't keeping our. We pushed somebody on the back on an unnecessary block. Or so we're going to have to. We want to see what the penalties numbers are like, and some. This is the time of year where you get crews from different areas of the state, and some people areas of the state are like, yeah, we're going to let them play unless it's egregious. So that's a little bit of in what we can control is those kind of, let's move our feet, let's get ourselves in good hands in and make sure that we're not unnecessarily causing that there's a good chance outside of turnovers. That would be the area I really hope a vast improvement for the Rams.
Very good, Coach. Hey, I really appreciate getting to catch up with you, and it's I very appreciate just you being generous with your time. I know this is a very busy week for a lot of folks here in the state of Missouri. You've got football wrapping up, you've got basketball starting, you've got wrestling starting all at the same time. But I just want to say thank you so much for your time, and if you guys fortunate enough to come out on top Saturday, maybe we can give you a text and get you on the line and be a part of the football scoreboard show.
Hey, that'd be great, Guy. You know what? It's unlike back. We both know the time where you had your first round game in 5 days, down to game in 5 days, and then you had a semifinal round in 5 days. That timers feel like, man, we've got all kinds of time compared to what we used to have. Time, but it's certainly an energizing time. It's a time where there's around your players. These are things that they've shot for, and they're drawn on reserves. So this time of year, I think be playing football in mid-November. So thanks for your school football in our state, and keep doing your good work, man. Appreciate it, Guy.
You bet. Thanks, Coach. Couldn't do it without you. Hey, you're watching Missouri State. I'm sorry. The Missouri Sports Network here at MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us, take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Be safe, be smart, and be here tomorrow.